Tonight on Fox 9 Now in HD, Idaho lawmakers introduced two bills that broaden the definition of sex crimes so that more attackers can be charged.
I'll show you how a local hospital is helping long-term patients keep up in the classroom.
And you're going to want to avoid a certain section of Eagle Road tomorrow. I'll explain why coming up.
Watching Fox 9 Now News at 9. It's about time.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. I'm Roland Barris. Tonight's big story: fallout continues after the arrest of a well-known local priest. The Diocese of Boise responding to what it calls the, quote, deeply disturbing allegations against retired Reverend Thomas Fauché. After talking on camera with Fox 9 Now this weekend, the diocese issuing a written statement today. In it, the bishop, Peter F. Christensen, writes, if the allegations are true and proven in court, they represent a betrayal of the trust we place in all ministers. He goes on to write that exploiting children is wrong, saying there are no, quote, no excuses for such behavior. As Fox 9 Now has reported, Fauché is behind bars in Ada County facing a long list of felonies, most of them related to the sexual exploitation of a minor. Prosecutors say investigators found hundreds of images of child pornography on Thomas Fauché's home computer. They also reportedly found an electronic chat open in which Fauché expressed an interest in molesting and harming children. Prosecutors allege Fauché also sent images to another individual online. And authorities say they found LSD, ecstasy, and marijuana in his home. The retired priest is being held on $250,000 bail with a preliminary hearing scheduled for Thursday, February 15th. Inside the State House today, a Senate committee has introduced two bills that would broaden the definition of some sex crimes to include crimes committed with the intent of degrading or humiliating someone. Idaho Deputy Attorney General Paul Panther told the Senate Judiciary and Rules Committee state statutes currently do not cover situations like severe hazing, when someone such as on a high school sports team is sexually battered during a bullying incident. As Fox 9 Now reported, back in 2015, a disabled Dietrich High School football player was brutally assaulted with a coat hanger. But it was impossible to charge the attacker under Idaho law because prosecutors could not prove that he was motivated by sexual arousal, gratification, or abuse. The new legislation must now clear a full hearing. A bill calling for an Article 5 convention of the states was the hot ticket at the Capitol this morning. Lawmakers are expected to vote on the bill tomorrow, but not before taking more public testimony. Fox 9 Now's Marissa Morrison has the latest.
The House State Affairs Committee took 3 hours of public testimony on the controversial constitutional convention legislation.
You have the right, and you say the duty, to call a convention of states to propose amendments that will limit and rein in the size of and scope of the federal government.
Passionate arguments for and against calling a convention of the states.
And in this time of dangerous polarization, of partisan distrust, and of a fractured body politic, revising that one document that unifies us is ill-advised.
The goal of the bill is to call a convention of the states to propose constitutional amendments to create checks on federal power, such as a balanced budget rule and term limits. Some argue Congress will never move to limit themselves, while others contend opening the Constitution in a convention could have unintended consequences.
Our founders understood that the states needed to be involved in reining in the power of Congress.
I oppose any Article 5 convention call. It really is a time to take counsel of our fears. Please do not trod untested tracks.
Public testimony will pick back up Wednesday morning at 8 a.m. inside the House State Affairs Committee. Reporting inside the State House, Marissa Morrison, Fox 9 Now.
Also on the agenda in the Capitol tomorrow, the House Education Committee will vote on whether to approve permanent K-12 science standards. For the third successive year, lawmakers are trying to agree on a new set of school science standards. The sticking point is how the standards should address issues like climate change. The committee took 2 days of public testimony on the topic last week. Temporary standards approved last year are set to expire. Nearly 1 year after voters in the Boise School District approved a $172 million bond, the new Amity Elementary School is on track to open this next fall. Fox 9 Now's Stephanie Hale Lopez has this Making the Grade update.
For the Boise School District, Amity Elementary has stood the test of time.
The cutting-edge technology that was used to build that school back in 1979 has caused us some problems.
A leaking roof and major infrastructure issues will soon be in the past as crews work to complete the school's new building just a few yards away.
The current Amity Elementary School, now nearly 40 years old, will be demolished, and in its place will be the playground for the new school.
A secured main entrance, AstroTurf in the courtyard, and energy-efficient heating are some of the highlights of the $15 million project.
Our Just for Kids child care program that has for many years been on a portable here at the Amity site, and we've integrated that Just for Kids child care program into the actual school of Amity Elementary School, and that's a good thing.
The district's hearing impaired program will also be relocated to the new building. This winter's warm weather has allowed construction crews to make significant progress. The new building is set to open this fall.
This is all about what's right for the students, what's right for our community. Can't thank enough our community for their support.
Stephanie Hill-Lopez, Fox 9 Now.
And the new Amity Elementary School is just one of the 22 capital improvement projects supported by the bond.
Chief Meteorologist Scott Dorval with your Fox 9 Now forecast.
Boy, the temperatures warm up nicely today a little bit. We're getting back into the 50s. You can feel it warming up, the birds chirping, the temperatures getting into the 50s, and the sunshine, a lot more of it today, 10 degrees above average. Now, that's pretty significant, but we're getting used to this. Record high at 65. It could be as cold as -11. It was that way back in 1989. We had some pretty cold years there, but no precipitation yet for the month of February, staying very dry. Low this morning was 29, but the next couple days, temperatures are going to be heading up on the rise. So here are the high temperatures today. See about 52 in Boise, 56 in Ontario, milder to the west, cooler to the east, only 47 in Twin Falls. We fast forward and take a look at 24 hours from now. Here's what the computer charts are showing. Back to the mid-50s around the Treasure Valley, into the 60s in the western or southeast Oregon, and warming into the central mountains as well. So let's take a look at that forecast. Overnight tonight, I expect temperatures around 34 and mostly clear. A nice day tomorrow because of the light wind and the sunshine. It will feel warmer than this, but 56 degrees, not bad. It gets even warmer on Thursday. I'll have that in my extended forecast coming up.
Well, the busiest street in the state shut down for most of the day after a big water main break. Eagle Road between Fairview and Pine is now actually open to limited traffic overnight, but the closures will return tomorrow. And Fox 9 Now's Karen Laird joins us live from the scene with the latest details, causing all sorts of problems. Right, Karen?
Yeah, that's right, Roland. Yeah, this section of Eagle Road, very busy and very heavily traveled. Nearly 49,000 cars pass through this section on a normal day. And even with a temporary fix in place, as you can see, cars now able to move through the area. We still have a long way to go, and the crews out here know time is of the essence. An eerie scene from what's typically a traffic-logged block of Eagle Road. The only vehicles allowed between Pine and Fairview through Tuesday rush hour. The crews repairing the pavement after a 20-foot section of water main split. That pipe installed in 1994.
We have been able to get the water line fixed, but we're still looking at some residual damage to the roadway.
Crews had to tear up 100 square feet of pavement in order to assure water will no longer be an issue.
If we don't, it's an easy way for potholes to be formed. That water can freeze, it'll expand, and then it'll thaw out. Boom, you've got yourself a pothole. So that's why we're tearing up all this pavement to make sure we've got all the water out.
Crews now are focusing on a short-term solution, filling the area with gravel to allow for limited travel overnight tonight. The long-term fix will come on Wednesday.
There aren't a lot of plants that are mixing the hot asphalt that we need to repave this. So we're trying to push production to get the pavement. At the earliest, we're looking to be able to open it up tomorrow afternoon.
Now, if this section of Eagle Road is part of your morning commute, you are still urged to use an alternate route if possible. They plan to reclose this block of Eagle Road beginning at 9 a.m. to pour that asphalt. Now, of course, they will, as whether or not if this is going to be open before the evening commute tomorrow, they still are unsure. We, of course, will keep you updated, and you can always check online before you go by going to 511.idaho.gov. Reporting live in Meridian, I'm Karen Laird, Fox 9 Now.
Keeping our fingers crossed for tomorrow night. Well, a food icon in the Treasure Valley is this month's Jefferson Award winner. You know Chef Lou Aaron as the man behind the West Side Drive-In, but what he does with his cooking skills goes way beyond the diner. Chef Lou Aaron's dedication to the community is as vibrant and bold as the pink neon on his trademark West Side Drive-In.
Well, because I grew up in the community. I mean, I moved here in 1973, and I actually grew up just a couple blocks from the West Side.
He uses his kitchen to give back with much more than just food. He has a history of hiring people who just cannot get any other opportunity.
The last 15 years or so, we've really focused on giving people that are struggling second chances. And it's not just about, throwing a paycheck or throwing some money at somebody. It's actually investing some time with them and helping them get up. And that's what happened to me during my career several times that I was down at the rock bottom and I had someone help me get up.
And when it comes to food, he's always ready to put on a spread for charity. He's hosted the Christmas dinner at the Hayes Shelter for the past 12 years.
Like, I fed a lot of famous people in my career, and that was all fine and dandy. But when you feed people that are homeless and you go and put on a nice big spread for them for Christmas dinner, I mean, that you can't replace the feeling you get from that, because you're truly helping somebody.
One of his prized possessions is the card signed by the kids he fed last year.
As you grow older, you realize that it's not all about you, it's about the community you live in, because the community is the one that made the West Side. I didn't make the West Side. The customers come. I mean, it's like a family.
And for his dedication to improving his hometown and helping those who need help the most, Chef Lou Aaron is this month's Jefferson Award winner. He's just a great guy. Do you know someone who makes a difference in the community? Why not nominate them for a Jefferson Award? Fox 9 Now will pick a new recipient each month, and one of those folks will be selected to head to Washington, D.C. to represent our state. He or she could even receive the Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis Volunteer of the Year Award. So just head to fox9now.com and click on the Jefferson Awards link. When a child is diagnosed with cancer, a lot of times education has to be put on hold. But one local hospital is making sure that school stays a top priority. Fox 9 Now's Lacey Darrow joins us live in studio with the details on that. Lacey.
Absolutely, Roland. Well, as you know, kids don't always love school. But for those who are undergoing treatment, many times they can't wait to get back in the classroom.
There's the alphabet, the solar system, and even school supplies. But this isn't a traditional classroom.
This is the hospital classroom space on the 4th floor of the Children's Hospital.
When a child is diagnosed with cancer, usually the first question is about treatment. But next comes the everyday questions.
What are we going to do about school?
St. Luke's has staff that work hand in hand with schools to make sure that students are not held back simply because of their diagnosis.
It was nice knowing that at least that one piece we didn't have to worry about.
For 6th grader Kieran, the classroom is an essential part in keeping her grades up.
When I get older, I want to become a pediatric oncologist, and I won't have to get good grades to be able to go to the University of Utah.
That's a pretty lofty goal for the future Ute, but she's got a good reason behind it. The University of Utah is home of one of the premier cancer hospitals in the nation.
She's a success story. She's been through it, she knows how it is, and she can help others get there too.
St. Luke's here in Boise works with the students' school to develop a lesson plan and keep the kids on track, which isn't always an easy task with their physical side effects, something Kieran's hospital teacher Colin empathizes with.
They might have to leave the classroom 10 times to use the bathroom, or, depending on what their effects of their treatment are going on. But they always come back, and they know that we'll be here for them.
It's nice having a teacher that understands where I'm coming from, so he can help me make sure I keep up with my homework.
And while not every child loves school, for these kids, a lot of times it's a happy escape from what they're going through.
I love going in there and hanging out with Colin. It takes my mind off of everything, and it helps me get through the day. It helps pass time, because the more time I pass, the closer I am to going home.
Gives her a little bit of what we can for normal right now.
And for Colin, getting his students back to their normal school is his hope as well.
I'm very happy to see them go. I love my time with the kids, and yeah, they're each different and so special. But yeah, my goal is to get them back to where they're supposed to be.
When they're done with their treatment, they aren't just left in the dark. St. Luke's actually helps assist students and their families as they transition back into their regular schools to make the change less challenging for everyone. Live in studio, Lacey Darrow, Fox 9 Now.
Fox 9 now has much more news in our second half hour. Take a look at this. A triumph for SpaceX as it successfully launches the most powerful rocket on the planet. And next on Fox 9 Now.
President Trump in the cabinet room today threatening another government shutdown, leaving most of Washington to wonder, what's he talking about? I'm John Roberts at the White House. I'll have that story coming up.
Right now in America, a new warning from President Trump. The commander-in-chief says he'd love to see a government shutdown, again, if his border security plans are not accepted. This as Democrats push for the president to release their rebuttal to the GOP memo. Fox's John Roberts reports.
Chairing a meeting on strategy to confront the notorious Hispanic gang MS-13, President Trump threw a bomb into talks on a budget deal, saying if he can't get an agreement on immigration reform, he's happy to have another government shutdown.
I would shut it down over this issue. If we don't straighten out our border, we don't have a country. Without borders, we don't have a country. So would I shut it down over this issue? Yes. I can't speak for our great representatives here, but I have a feeling they may agree with me.
The threat came straight out of left field. Democrats have been talking about insisting a DACA deal be in place before moving ahead with a 2-year budget, but on the idea of another shutdown, the president found himself an army of one.
Speaks for itself. We had one Trump shutdown. Nobody wants another, maybe except him.
White House Chief of Staff John Kelly today warned Democrats time is running out to get a deal on DACA and immigration reform, that the president is not likely to extend the deadline past March 5th, despite what the president said in Davos just 12 days ago.
We'll get it solved. And if we need a little more time, we'll take a little more time. I want to get the problem solved correctly.
Kelly also raised eyebrows when he took a shot at DACA-eligible illegal immigrants who haven't signed up for the program.
The difference between 690 and 1.8 million were the people that some would say were too afraid to sign up, others would say were too lazy to get off their asses, but they didn't sign up.
At the White House briefing today, the press secretary had deflector shields on full when asked about it.
We want to solve the problem on DACA, and we want to solve the border security issue. We want to end chain migration. We want to end the visa lottery system. What we don't want to do is continue kicking the can down the road. We're focused on actually getting a solution. And frankly, I think if anybody's lazy, it's probably Democrats who aren't showing up to work and aren't actually getting to the table to make a deal on this.
Behind the scenes, the White House today began the process of reviewing the newly received Democratic memo on FISA abuses. Its author, the Democratic ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee, said he's concerned with what the White House may do with it.
What I'm more concerned about, Allison, is that they make political redactions. That is, not redactions to protect sources or methods, which we've asked the Department of Justice and FBI to do, but redactions to remove information they think is unfavorable to the president. That could be a real problem.
Sources who have read the memo tell Fox News it contains several references that go to sources and methods that will likely need to be redacted. Republicans suspect their inclusion was intentional to force the White House to make changes that Democrats could later claim showed a double standard, since the White House made no changes to the Republican memo. The White House insists the process for the Democratic memo will be identical to that of the Republican document.
He met with the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, within the last hour to discuss some of the differences between the two memos. And we are undergoing the exact same process that we did with the previous memo, in which it will go through a full and thorough legal and national security review.
Adam Schiff has already laid down a marker, saying any political redactions would show nothing more than stonewalling on the part of the White House and force him to try to find another way to release the memo, though it's unlikely such efforts would bear fruit in time to really matter. At the White House, John Roberts, Fox News.
Still ahead on Fox 9 Now, fears of a possible explosion give way to cheers as SpaceX pulls off one of its most ambitious rocket launches yet.
And temperatures have been warming up a little bit, but the big story has been the sunshine. Plenty of it. Look at Sun Valley today as temperatures get into the 40s. Some melting going on, but those blue skies continue in my extended forecast. Next.
Chief Meteorologist Scott Dorval with your Fox 9 Now forecast.
As usual, we get right to that extended forecast, and this is a nice one. If you like the mild weather we've been having, you're really going to like the next couple of days. We go back into the mid-50s. We've been there already this year, but with the light wind and the added sunshine, you're going to notice a little bit of a change tomorrow over today, even though it's only 4 degrees warmer than it was today. 61 on Thursday. That'll be the mildest day, possibly the mildest day we've had since the season started here, when really we're still in wintertime. The Western Valley could be in the mid-60s, but then some cooler, breezy conditions will try to move down from the north, and I think they'll get here certainly by Saturday, and they could on Friday. Now, Friday I've got 50 for a high temperature, but there's a chance it could be a little bit warmer than that. I'll keep you posted, but definitely a breezy, cooler, and chilly day on Saturday. A cold Sunday morning, but a nice afternoon, and then temperature staying about 8 degrees above average instead of 15 to 20 degrees above average. So where is all that winter? It is still back east. Temperatures, if you see the white region here, we're talking highs only in the single digits and teens there, while in western parts of the region, there's your 52 in Boise. It hit about 74 degrees in San Francisco today. This orange here is really warming up, and I'll tell you, Oregon is really going to notice it as we move through the next several days. Some pretty big changes coming in. So there's a 74 in San Francisco. We'll get into the 70s on Thursday, all the way into south central Oregon on Thursday, while that cold air plunges down again, just deep freeze in the northern and central plains. Here's a look at the McCall area today. Some clouds just kind of hanging right over Brenda's Resort for a while, but then just partly cloudy skies afterwards. Clearing skies towards the evening. The lake's still out here frozen, but we will see a warm up. Notice how at 6:30 today we're at 37, and those temperatures are going to be shooting into the 40s here in my extended forecast. 40 on Wednesday, 41 on Thursday, so not real warm, but certainly above average. And then we cool things down, a chance for some flurries tomorrow morning, again on Friday, and some snow showers possible on Monday. Look at the change in low temperature, 31 on Thursday, and when a colder air mass comes in, the low goes all the way down to 12 on Sunday. So when you wake up Sunday morning, if you are headed up skiing, keep in mind some pretty cold mornings here. It'll take a while for that snow to soften up, but I think there'll be some sunshine, so that will be happening. And so the clouds and precipitation, it's just cloud cover moving down from north to south. It's drying out as it does so, and that mild weather slowly inching its way in. We get milder tomorrow. A taste of that warm weather pushing into Oregon and getting really close to southern Idaho on Thursday before we cool back down over the weekend. And the Futurecast shows that precipitation staying mostly to the north for tomorrow. And then on Thursday, that's the warmest weather, mostly sunny to partly cloudy. On Friday, as that front starts to approach, the breeze could pick up a little, but I still think will be quite mild during the day on Friday. Here's my exclusive true view of tomorrow's weather today. Shows temperatures in the mid-50s, and much of this cloud cover will be to the north. I think it's going to be very pleasant, especially in the Western Valley where there's almost no wind. 56 degrees in Boise, mostly sunny to partly cloudy. Garden Valley tomorrow at 52, while you see in Pine and Featherville, I expect temperatures still to be in the 40s. About 40 degrees in the McCall area tomorrow. Could be a couple of flurries during the morning and a couple of flurries up in the Stanley area during the morning, but then we just warm right back up. 48 degrees out in the Sun Valley during the day tomorrow. Here's my extended forecast once again, and it shows the next 2 days will be the mildest weather we've had in some time, and it could be the mildest day of the season here on Thursday with temperatures in the 60s, and 61 could be one of the cooler readings in the Treasure Valley during the day Thursday. Over the weekend, here comes the breezy, cooler weather on Saturday, but the sun will continue to shine. So, Roland, we're still talking about above normal temperatures even when it cools down this weekend.
A lot of sunshine, though. Thanks, Scott. Well, even Elon Musk thought his latest space venture was going to be headed for disaster this afternoon. But instead, let's see, he put a sports car into space on top of the largest and most impressive rockets in the world. Fox's Phil Keating reports.
The most powerful rocket on the planet, SpaceX's Falcon Heavy, with 27 engines and 5 million pounds of thrust, blasted off into spaceflight history. Despite serious concerns that this test flight could easily explode in an epic fireball, it did not, opening up a more accessible solar system for NASA, the U.S. military, and satellite makers. The rocket also can be equipped with a SpaceX Dragon capsule to return astronauts to the moon or fly them to Mars and beyond. An estimated 100,000 spectators watched the launch from Florida's Space Coast, the largest crowd since the final space shuttle flight in 2011. And the celebration continued. About 5 minutes after the launch, the two booster rockets separated and returned to Earth, nailing their returns at the landing zone. Still unclear is whether the Center Core rocket also nailed its landing on the drone ship. And just for fun, the payload on this test flight was a brand new electric Tesla Roadster, which is now heading to the Mars orbit with a Starman astronaut dummy in the driver's seat and 3 cameras to provide epic views. SpaceX CEO Elon Musk, who had said it would be, quote, a huge drag if it blew up, was just elated. Later this year, SpaceX, as well as Boeing, will test fly their new space capsules. And if those test flights go as well as today's, then they will take astronauts on board on new flights to the International Space Station, meaning NASA will no longer have to rely on Russian rockets. At the Kennedy Space Center, Phil Keating, Fox 9 Now.
Called Going to Space in Style. Still to come on Fox 9 Now, Olympic security facing a major challenge just 3 days before the start of the games in South Korea. Right now in the world, here's a rough story. The Winter Olympics start on Thursday and security officials are already facing a pretty nasty curveball. Fox's Greg Palcott explains.
South Korean officials making final security sweeps ahead of the start of the Winter Olympics on Thursday. But now they're facing an unexpected challenge. Some 1,200 security guards who had been scheduled to work the Pyeongchang Games have been taken out of service by an outbreak of norovirus. Officials now scrambling to find replacements and make sure the outbreak doesn't spread to the Olympic Village.
A whole campaign of information and leaflets will be distributed to all populations about what to do if you're coughing or if you have symptoms.
Meanwhile, the North Korean delegation arriving in the South by boat on Tuesday after an official send-off featuring the sister of Kim Jong-un. Olympic officials praising the two countries for coming together in the spirit of the Games.
The Olympic spirit has brought real hope for a brighter future for everyone on the Korean Peninsula.
But the U.S. is trying to keep the focus on the ongoing threat from North Korea's missile and nuclear programs. Vice President Mike Pence is leading the U.S. delegation to the Games, saying he'd be open to meeting with North Korean officials, but not mincing words about what he'd say.
My message, whatever the setting, whoever's present, will be the same. And that is that North Korea must once and for all abandon its nuclear weapons program.
The vice president is stopping in South Korea as part of a 6-day visit to Asia designed to increase pressure on the North. In London, Greg Palcott, Fox News.
So this is interesting. Pence also planning to send a message by attending the opening ceremony with the father of Otto Warmbier as his guest. Warmbier, of course, is the young American man who was imprisoned in North Korea for stealing propaganda materials from his hotel room. His father says he was tortured. Otto Warmbier was later returned to the United States with extensive brain damage and died shortly thereafter. The Iraqi government says the United States will reduce troop levels in the country following Iraq's declaration of victory over ISIS. The U.S.-led coalition says the focus of its military campaign in Iraq will shift from combat operations to sustaining military gains against the terror group. An Iraqi government spokesman says that means a gradual troop reduction. In December, the Pentagon said there were roughly 5,200 American forces in Iraq. Secretary of Defense James Mattis has fired 2 top Guantanamo Bay officials over a, quote, loss of confidence. Harvey Rishikoff had been the convening authority for military commissions, and Gary Brown was the legal advisor to the convening authority. The Pentagon says the staff changes are unrelated to several hearings that are underway related to inmates at Guantanamo. As Fox 9 Now reported, President Donald Trump signed an executive order last week to keep the detention facility open. A judge in the UK has ruled that the UK arrest warrant for WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange still stands. The man's lawyer arguing that the UK warrant should be dropped because Sweden dropped its arrest warrant for rape-related charges. The judge, though, rejecting that claim. As Fox 9 Now has reported, the 46-year-old has been holed up at the Ecuadorian embassy in London for the last 5 years to avoid arrest after publicly releasing confidential U.S. documents. Coming up on Fox 9 Now, a new app online in Colorado aims to broaden and expedite access to birth control. And welcome back in tonight's Health Report. A new app aims to simplify and expand access to birth control for women in Colorado. Fox's Kim Posey has the details.
Lauren Olson had just moved to Denver when she realized she was about to run out of her birth control pills.
You know, I just started a new job, so I didn't want to take time off work to go to a doctor. I wasn't sure what doctors I could go to yet because I was just getting enrolled in my new health insurance.
So she decided to try Nurx, an app and website that just launched in Colorado.
They ask if you've had your blood pressure measured in the last 6 months.
On the app, she answered a medical questionnaire.
If you have a history of headaches, strokes, liver conditions.
Then a doctor or nurse practitioner licensed in Colorado reviewed the information and gave her a prescription.
The whole process took maybe 20 minutes.
Her pills were shipped and arrived at her home in a matter of days.
The process was really easy.
That's good news to the medical director of Nurx, who FaceTimed us.
Somewhere around 50% of pregnancies are unintended.
Dr. Jessica Knox wants to make birth control more accessible for women and for teenagers.
There's nothing that you're missing in our app that you would be getting in a physical office or at the pharmacy.
But not everyone is on board with the app. A statement from American Right to Life says, in part, Colorado parents should be alarmed and outraged that their sacred, God-given authority to protect their minor children and raise and nurture them as they see fit is being further undermined by unscrupulous adults. So what about the cost? Nurx does not charge a fee, and they do accept health insurance. If you are uninsured, you can still get birth control for as little as $15 per month.
That was Fox's Kim Posey reporting. A new study finds that 4 out of 5 British teenagers may be exposed to chemicals that disrupt their hormones. However, the sample size was pretty small, so it's hard to say. Researchers at Exeter University surveyed 94 teens. And what they found was traces of BPA in most of their systems. Remember BPA, it's the chemical which is commonly used to make plastics. It can mimic estrogen and decrease sperm count in men. And while BPA is legal in the UK, the European Chemicals Agency has labeled it as, quote, a substance of very high concern, making you wonder why it's legal. The Food Standard Agency says minute traces of the chemical, though, are not considered harmful. A concerning new report claims some nursing homes in the U.S. are misusing drugs to control older residents who have dementia. According to Human Rights Watch, nearly 180,000 people are given antipsychotic medications every week. This despite the fact that they do not have approved psychiatric diagnoses. Researchers say the drugs are administered as a cost-effective, quote, chemical restraint, and they are used to ease the load on overwhelmed staff. Critics say that kind of drug usage can create a higher risk of death for certain elderly patients. Over in Japan now, the government thinks that robots could be the future of elder care. Officials hoping artificial intelligence can make an impact as soon as the year 2020. It might need to because Japan is facing a projected shortage of as many as 370,000 caretakers over the next decade. The government hopes that 4 in 5 care recipients will accept robot support within the next 2 years. Still ahead on Fox 9 Now, an Idaho football legend returns home after being selected for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Alrighty, time for some entertainment news tonight. Some sad news for fans of the 90s TV series Frasier, as actor John Mahoney has died. Mahoney, of course, played Martin Crane, Frasier's father, from 1993 to 2004. More recently, he starred as Betty White's love interest in the show Hot in Cleveland. In addition to TV, Mahoney also appeared on the live stage, winning a Tony in 1986 for his role in The House of Blue Leaves. The cause of his death has not been released. John Mahoney was 77 years old. Actress Kim Cattrall is mourning the loss of her brother. He was found dead on his property by authorities. Kim had taken to social media to ask for help in finding him after he was reported missing. Officials say the death is not suspicious. Christopher Cattrall was 55 years old. Nearly 4 decades after the drowning death of actress Natalie Wood, investigators say new witnesses are coming forward in the case. The 1981 drowning now being called a, quote, suspicious death investigation. It happened when Wood was boating with her husband, actor Robert Wagner, and actor Christopher Walken off the coast of Catalina Island. In a 2009 book, Wagner wrote that he argued with his wife and Walken that night. And when Wood disappeared, Wagner said he assumed she left the yacht to go ashore. But detectives say the details of his story, quote, don't really add up.
Yes, of course, we want to talk to Robert Wagner. You bet. We would love to hear his side of his version of events.
Officials say they are making a public appeal for more witnesses to come forward with any information. Investigators say Wagner has declined to speak with them since they reopened the case. New details tonight on the fatal drunk driving incident in Indiana that claimed the lives of 2 people, including NFL player Edwin Jackson. Authorities say the suspect, who was in the country illegally, was seriously intoxicated and driving without a license. According to jail records, 37-year-old Manuel Orrego Zavala was also using an alias. A Guatemalan citizen, he was deported in 2007 and 2009. President Trump saying such incidents are preventable and shows the need for stricter border control.
We need the wall.
Families lost loved ones because of a senseless crash.
Police say the 26-year-old football player was riding in an Uber when the car pulled over to the shoulder because Jackson was sick. He and the 54-year-old driver of the vehicle were standing outside the car when the suspect slammed into them in his pickup truck. One of the men was thrown into the roadway where he was accidentally struck by a state trooper responding to the scene. Well, the newest inductee into the Pro Football Hall of Fame is home. After a long, busy week in Minnesota, Idaho's own Jerry Kramer back in Boise. It took a record 11 nominations to get Kramer in, but now all of that doesn't matter. Jerry Kramer will officially be inducted into the Hall of Fame this summer in Canton, Ohio.
It's really been an incredible experience, but it's been a long and somewhat difficult experience to get through. So it's nice to be home, and it's always nice to be home.
I guess anticipation makes it even sweeter after all these years. The former Vandal is fitted for his bust and Hall of Fame jacket on Monday. The ceremony will be part of the Hall of Fame Enshrinement Week in August. That's pretty cool. Yeah, neat to see.
And I'll be that. Glad he's finally in the Hall of Fame.
Go Packers.
Well, the Lobos and the Broncos tangling at the Pit.
Right.
One of the toughest venues to play in college basketball. We'll have all the latest coming up after the break.
The Fish and Game forecast is brought to you locally by Corwin Ford.
With the moon in its last quarter on Wednesday, February 7th, head out early in the morning or in the evening. A strong early good period begins at 5:15 a.m. and runs through 9 a.m. with the early peak at 7. The strongest evening good period lasts from 5 p.m. to 9:45 with the peak also at 7. For more information, go to fox9now.com.
This is Fox 9 Now Sports with Dan Hogg.
Every Halloween, The Simpsons put out their Treehouse of Horror episode. It's worth watching if you get a chance. Well, tonight, that's exactly what Boise State's going through at the Pit. It's been a horror movie for them on the road in Albuquerque. The Broncos have won just one in the all-time series against New Mexico at the Pit. It's a close game tonight right now. The Broncos trailing by 7 points with under 3 to play. Chandler Hutchinson and Christine Felder leading the way for the Blue and Orange with 19 points apiece. Right now, the score is 70-63. Broncos still trailing. Staying with hoops, the 10 candidates for the 2018 Jerry West Shooting Guard of the Year award was announced today, and Boise State's senior guard, but he's really a forward, Chandler Hutchinson, was named to the list. Hutch is the only candidate who leads his team in points and rebounds as well as assists. Puerto Rico continues to recover from the devastating effects of Hurricane Maria as over 200 families are still affected. And former Hawks hitting coach Jesus Valenzuela is in Puerto Rico helping with the relief. Feliciano, along with his brother-in-law Alex Cora, who's the manager of the Boston Red Sox, delivered relief supplies and baseball equipment to area children. The Red Sox also donated $200,000 to the mayor of Puerto Rico to help restore power to this city. Even with the help of the Red Sox, there is still work to be done.
There's a lot of people that are without power and water still, especially the people up in the mountains. And I know we need to continue to help. This is not going to end today or tomorrow. This is going to take a few years.
Riley Lufer has been the Broncos' go-to shooter behind the arc this year. In fact, she set the single-season record for three-pointers made last week. She has 83 three-pointers on the year and enters this week's matchup with the Lobos just 27 trays from matching the Mountain West single-season record of 110. However, what she does to get herself dialed in is a little bit out of the ordinary.
It's all mental. Everyone thinks I just get shots up, but it's a lot of meditating and visualizing.
You heard it first. Lufer's uncanny ability to score is meditating. In fact, she's even taken a page out of what some consider the GOAT of basketball, Michael Jordan. from advice from her sister, who's a psychologist.
She just started introducing it to me, and the first thing she ever had me read was The Mental Athlete. It was about this guy that worked with teams, Phil Jackson teams like Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, and I was like, they meditate before games? Like, what? That's crazy. Like, that doesn't work.
It surely has worked for her game, as Lufer is averaging 16 points a game, leading the Broncos in scoring. Oh, and she's connecting on nearly half her shots from long range.
And so I started doing it. I was like, God, I feel good. Like, I'm not irritated. Like, I feel calm. And it's just my mind's free, my body's creating. My body has done the shot millions of times.
Her game has also developed due to the fact that she's a gym rat, staying at Taco Bell Arena into the wee hours of the night.
I just love the grind. I love coming in here, and I like the idea that if you put time into something, you will get the payoff.
She's one of the few players I know that will work herself to fatigue and then start shooting so that she can shoot in fatigue. Most kids, when they come and shoot, they just jack a couple shots and then head out. So it's just another level of commitment.
Roland, if you get the chance, go watch her on Wednesday as they take on New Mexico.
They had a heck of a team.
She's phenomenal behind
I need to start meditating before the show.
Maybe you should.
See me sitting on my desk.
You do sit on your desk and meditate, I think.
And you won't see that on Facebook, I don't think. All right, here's a live look at Boise from our tower cam atop the Grove Hotel. We're going to check in with Scott one last time in our forecast. Pretty nice looking out there. Coming up next. If you're not a fan of spiders, be glad you never encountered one of its ancient relatives. Scientists discovering a spider-like creature with 8 legs, small fangs, and a whip-like tail. 4 specimens of the species have been found preserved in amber. Scientists believe the tiny creatures, which measure just 3 millimeters in length, crawled around Southeast Asia 4 million years ago, and I'm glad they're dead. Sorry.
Good point. Good point. Hey, heading out the door tomorrow, you'd think the spiders might start to crawl already because temperatures, I just spoke with somebody tonight, said have the crocus blooming and tulips coming.
They're confused.
Yeah, it's incredible. It has been mild, getting up into the 50s tomorrow. And Roland, this, as I mentioned earlier, is not going to be the warmest day. Thursday, amazing in the 60s.
Wow. Yeah. This time of year, it's crazy.
It is.
All right. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Have yourself a great night.